Are we on? Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from November 1, 2021.
Move approval. Second.
All in favor? Great, thank you. Appointments, recognitions, and resignations. Resignation of Todd Graham from the school board effective October 22, 2021.
I'd move that we accept the resignation with regret, but many thanks for Todd's efforts over the years. Seconded.
All in favor? Consent agenda. Summary of their October 2021 meeting held between representatives of the town and the DOT regarding the information presented in the Route 3 Safety Improvement Study, engineering study dated February 17, 2020, commissioned by the town and DOT and their Cost Share Planning Partnership Initiative Program. Update on the Otter Creek Cove project scoping, October 28, 2021. And Hancock County Commissioner Special Meeting Minutes of October 19, 2021.
Move approval of the consent agenda?
Second.
Anybody want to take anything out?
I guess I was wondering, weren't we going to have some sort of a presentation of the summary of that meeting about the Route 3 improvement study?
Yeah.
At some point? I don't.
Yeah, I mean, the reason we tabled it last time was
Yeah.
because Gordon wasn't here.
Yeah, I know. And so now if we just move it forward, will we never get that?
Well, I think at some point they're going to present something in an effort to get something on the warrant, so I assume. So that's, I guess, when we'll get a presentation. This just was a summary of the meeting, so,
Yeah,
you know,
Okay.
now we know about
I
it.
know. I knew he was hoping to attend last time. That's fine.
Tony?
Yes, thank you. The engineers presented the results of the study back last summer, early spring. I can't recall exactly. It might even been longer ago than that, but it was during COVID. And what this is just a presentation. The DOT might have a program coming with some funding for projects of this type. And the representatives that we met with suggested that we get a letter such as this into them by November 1st. That's why there's some typos in here. This was my rush job. For instance, the $5.1 million price tag I put on the project that was taken from a draft report that I had right beside me. The price actually ranges 6 to 16 million, depending on what type of work we do, if we do any at all. The high end is removing the big ledge face to your left as you're driving, come around by the Askew Inn, go by through your gardens, stairs up to the gardens. Then there's the big ledge face on your left-hand side that's continually spalling off chunks of ledge, one of which hit our street sweeper 2-3 years ago. And also there's a retaining wall under the road that's essentially the road that's going to have to be rebuilt. So the high end assumes the ledge face will be removed, the retaining wall will be rebuilt, and we'll have 5-foot wide extended shoulders or bike ped on each side. The 6 million, the low end, does not include the retaining wall nor removing all the ledge that we would need to remove on the left side of Route 3, 1 to accommodate a 5-foot shoulder and 2 for safety. It would want to be sloped back. That's where that was the biggest, and Dick Broom actually, and thank you, Dick, pointed that out to me today. He asked that question. But the presentation of the official report has been made, and this is a follow-up letter to the meeting Gordon, Rodney, and I had with folks from DOT, and for us to get in the queue, so to speak, if a project such as this, a program that would address and include projects of this scope comes about.
Okay, so this actually did go in?
It was, yeah, this was sent to the DOT, yes.
Okay, all right.
So what would happen next, Tony, is that there would be some kind of a formal presentation to put something on the warrant for the town to vote on?
I don't anticipate it's going to be fairly, the planning is going to be key to this, dividing that project up into sections, one that can be handled properly financially. And two, there's really no alternative route around the project area between 198 and Stanley Brook Road. So there's going to have to be some logistical planning go into that. Right now, I'm not anticipating any money on the warrant related to this. If some planning monies do come about, I believe there's ample money in the road reserve account to account for those costs. And those costs would be shared with the DOT.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I do have a question about the Otter Creek Cove project scope. Is that an application that's already been submitted to that group? It looked like an application, this questionnaire was
The
done.
questionnaire was, no, that was our first cut. So what we want to do. And actually, at this point, there's a lot of local control over that. So basically, those are what we applied for, this type of project. So what we have to do now is refine that down and then try to identify the scientist or scientist that would be.
Okay, so what, I guess what I'm asking is, what kind of tool is that? Is that something they sent to us to fill out?
The planning tool?
That, whatever that is?
Yeah, that was a sort of a guideline that we should consider. Not a requirement, it's something that is.
Something that we sent back to them, or I have no idea what that.
Not at this point, we will,
Yeah.
because that is only a cut. Yes, we get it refined more, and we will send it back to it.
Yeah.
And that's what we hope to do in December.
Yeah, because it does need to be refined.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mr.
All right.
Chairman,
yes,
if I could just step back to that DOT letter. That's more of an expression of interest to continue working with the DOT on projects such as the one that resulted in the study and the MPIs out on Route 198. That's absolutely non-committal. No one is committed to anything whatsoever. That's just an expression of interest that if
Thank
such a
you.
program is developed, we would consider working with them.
right, okay. So I have a motion and a second. Do I have any more discussion about any of these items? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Selectmen's reports.
I have a couple of things.
Okay.
I didn't want to disappoint Jeff and be silent 2 meetings in a row. The first is, Berlin, I'm hoping that we're going to be getting some kind of an update from Climate to Thrive. We're looking to them to provide us with something, I think, for the warrant, and we haven't heard a peep out of them since they took over that project.
I could contact them to see how they're doing.
Yeah, it would be nice if they came and spoke to us and let us know what was going on.
I'll invite them to a meeting.
Thank you.
Sure.
And the other thing I had was, Derlin and Matt and I were all at the Economic Development Committee meeting, whenever it was, last week.
Yeah.
And a couple of issues came up that have come up, well, one of them has come up before, which is the parking downtown, and we were hoping for a presentation. Is that gonna happen? Okay. And the other was something that I wasn't aware of. It was mentioned that some of the power on Main Street may be inadequate for the needs of the businesses down there.
That I have not heard.
I hadn't heard
Nobody
that.
has- To me, that seems to be almost a myth.
That seems to be what?
Like a myth, unless I hear differently.
A myth.
There was talk about, I think, one of the projects being constructed right now about having to bring power in from Tracy Road as well.
To supplement the power.
And I didn't know, I know that project contains an EV charger as well, so I didn't know if it had something to do with that, but
Tony,
considering those will become more prevalent, we
Tony,
gotta
have
make
you
sure we
heard
have enough.
anything about power?
A representative of Versant stopped up to see me today, and he mentioned that was a concern at this time. They're working on checking that out.
Great, thank you.
Okay, good.
I have something also. I was approached I also discovered that today, November 15th, is a National Recycling Day.
Yes.
So forgive me, Tony, but I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit again, I guess. I was approached by a resident that was concerned about our progress
Yep.
as far as finding an alternative to the recycling, that we can't do the all in one bin, and specifically wanted more information, and I guess I would like more information on which, which avenues have been pursued and declined, and for what reasons. And it's I don't want to put, and again, I don't want to disparage anyone, but the relationship that Tony has with the company that has yet to come through is troublesome to this individual that approached me. And
Okay.
that's okay. So that's my selectman's report, is that I would love more detail on what progress has been made on the recycling efforts, and
Yep.
make sure that that's all.
Yeah, I can respond to that, Mr. Chairman, if you like, to a limited degree.
Sure.
In my memo to Derlin that was in the, I believe, November 1st agenda, I had said that I intend to make a proposal to you folks at the December 1st selectmen meeting on a recycling option. I'm looking at two. I need the final costs on the second one before I'm able to make a recommendation. And those could be implemented if you folks selected one December the 1st. Within a week, we could be up and running back at the recycling center at the highway garage. And I'm not at all concerned with what the person mentioned to you, Jeff, about my relationship with the company, Coastal Resources of Maine, or,
Right.
Okay, none whatsoever. I represent 115 municipalities, one
Yeah.
of 9 directors that represent them. When I first got on the board, we were told all the directors were paid $200,000 a year. Well, they're really behind in those payments right now, I can tell you. No, this has been a long struggle, and I've said this to you before, but I can't get my fingers quite close enough that we're really getting ready to make some very, very exciting news public. But these we're talking $80 to $100 million facility. We can't negotiate in public. But we hope to have something very, very soon to share.
Great.
That all sounds very promising. Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome, Jeff. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Thanks.
Certainly.
Very great. Very good.
I'm going to throw in my 2 cents here. I do have something, just a curious thing about where are we with the Luso committee and the rental?
Meeting tomorrow,
Okay, and that's going to be
that's on the work plan. To get there, so yeah, so we'll back at it tomorrow. I'll probably give you more of an update the next meeting.
Okay. All right,
That's good news too.
good. All right, any other business? Or any other unfinished business? No?
Well, that
Okay.
was selectmen's
That's what we
So,
did.
all right, unfinished business, progress report on Northeast Harbor Fire Station project and discussion on solar panels, construction start date.
May I, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to provide the board with a updated floor plan, latest cost estimate as of late October on the project, minus it.
Can you suggest that you move up so people who are on Zoom can see and hear you better?
Room use up.
Yeah, we got room.
Center
We'll
stage.
find room.
Get a short chair though.
Here, you can have a good chair.
That's what we
He'll sit on the floor.
You've been here longer than I have.
Jeez, I feel old now.
Oh, just
All right, so
wait.
I just wanted to provide an update on the project as we are, where we're heading, floor plans, which haven't changed much, as I said. updated estimated cost, and a couple of items I need to find out from the board. One is the construction date. We're gonna be allowed to start construction immediately after town meeting. I need to know this because it has to be put in the bid package. Contractors are going to know when they're gonna start. As you saw in my memo, I would recommend and urge that we be allowed to do that because we are under a timetable to get this done and begin moving into the transition to 24/7 fire department and EMS and stuff like that.
Can we do that, Derlin, with the funding going into the next fiscal year? Or can we, is that, once it's voted, we can just get started?
Yeah, you could get started on it. Some of the bills might have to get pushed back.
That's what I was, yeah.
As long as everyone was aware.
Yeah, we've
got.
The bills will be recognized in the period in which they were incurred. I can't push back the bills. If they do work in fiscal year 22, the cost will be recognized in fiscal year 22.
That's what I was wondering, yeah.
So July 1st is the soonest they can start, if it's approved at the May town meeting.
Yes.
Or as soon as they could start it. It's not where the bill, when the bill comes, it's when the work is done?
Yes, it's when the costs were incurred, when
Okay.
they do the work. If they started on June 30th and they ran a bill all the way, into the next year, it gets complicated, but generally speaking, July 1st, if we're gonna have 2023, a warrant article for the 2023 fiscal year, and that's where the funding is gonna come from, then the costs need to be incurred in fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Figured that is right, sorry.
Yeah, so that's gonna push us back even a couple more months, but
Mhm.
there's no choice.
Okay.
The other items were the standing seam roofs. We looked into putting one on just the new section of the firehouse. From my understanding, I did contact Revision Energy to see if they, how much it would cost to put solar panels on the new section. They came down and took a quick look at it, actually looked at the plans. And apparently, because of the size of the roof and the location, it's not going to qualify for their PPA, their power purchase program, which allows the town to put these solar panels in at very low cost of that. So it'd be a full upfront cost if we wanted to put the solar panels on, and they were telling me that there's going to be very little return in power just because of where it's located, because of the sun and stuff like that. So there's a question whether we want to have the expense of even putting on a roof on this new section or not. And I contacted Revision again last week, and I kind of got pushed back a little bit now because apparently there's several entities in town that are working with Revision on solar panels, and they're kind of like telling me, to be blunt, you guys need to start getting your stuff together down here and come in with a consensus, because the guy I talked to said, I've got some people calling me from one committee and another committee and other different people, and they're getting kind of pulled in different directions because there's no one plan to comply with the climate change and everything like that, so.
That's why I'm gonna have my conversation with the revision this week, so.
Yeah, it should all move through Derlin, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I guess bottom line is, if it's okay with the board, I think we'd like to move ahead with this project and just go with the straight asphalt shingles that's on there. I will get an alternate for the Somerville Fire Station, because I think that may come into play a little bit more with the solar panels, but I'm not gonna get a solar panel estimate, because again, I think there's things in the background we're working and I'm not aware of townwide, so they're a little reluctant to give you a proposal for one project when there may be many
Makes
going
sense,
on
yeah.
in the town there. So that's really about it. Just a quick update and make sure that the board is okay with those items and there.
I'm fine with that.
Sounds good.
All right, perfect.
Yeah,
Thanks, Mark.
great.
That's quick.
Sit back, Chair. Thanks.
Okay, new business. Citizen requests that the town look into the costs and benefits of a reliable source of water for firefighting for people living near the north end of Long Pond. Hey, John?
Oh, I didn't know, I should have just stayed in my seat.
Pull a chair up, pull a chair up.
We need more chairs.
already in it.
Okay. Well, thank you.
No problem. I'm the new guy. Still.
So first, I'd like to thank you all for letting me come before you like this. This is something which I'm not from Maine originally. This is something that makes it special, but a citizen can come before the town council, town board, and make a presentation and be heard. So thank you for that. Also, I thank Chief Bender for his help in putting what little I know about the whole issue. He has educated me on that, so thank you, Chief. And for keeping the seat warm. That was a good fire. My name is Jonathan Lauer, for the 13 Woods Road. I'm speaking on behalf of the Woods Road community, certainly, but also I think what I'll be talking about goes beyond our community to others on the quiet side of town. Dorothy, even to your president of the Woods Road Association, and she will correct me if I stray, of course. You've got the details there. I'll add a little color commentary to it in your packet. We live in an area with no water mains, no regular fire hydrants. We do have 2 fire ponds in our development with dry hydrants put in by the original developer, Dave Urban, before I showed up about 20 years ago. I have one on my lot. I don't know if they meet the current standards, but they're there. They give us some peace of mind. And I think other developments don't have this at all, so we have a plus there. The hydrants are tested by Chief Bender's team once a year. One of my lot failed 2 years ago, and we've been working since then. COVID has slowed us down on how to repair that in an affordable way. Luckily, we have a member of our community who is a professional engineer, and he's installed dry hydrants, so he's been great help at helping us understand it with a complex area for a bunch of lay people like ourselves. That's been a big plus. But this year at the annual meeting, we asked ourselves, is this the best way to go? Our development is growing. We're not adding more fire ponds to it. So what's next? We have about 18 lots now developed on our way to 28. Across the road in Northern Neck, they have probably 3 times as many lots as we have. And Matt, much like the broadband, you go where the people are. We have the highest density on that side of town between Woods Road and Northern Neck of people. People like me who show up think, well, there's a big lake right there, Long Pond. We'll travel with water. And Chief Bender says, well, not so fast. You may have ice here in the wintertime, it's known to happen. And also in the summer, it's full of people there because it's a canoe rental place, and so there's congestion. So that might make it not easy to access the water that's there. I understand from the chief that a dry hydrant solution was considered some time ago, but it's not simple. Zoning issues, who owns the land, there's a ledge there, a lot of issues. So what's the solution? I don't know. How close is close enough? Well, obviously closer the better. 1,000 feet is a number I hear bandied out with insurance companies. We're well past that. We're talking thousands of feet. There is the closest source of water after our fire ponds is Ripples Pond Dam. That's about 3,800 feet away. I think I'm not sure if you can turn a truck around there. That Ripples Pond Dam is kind of narrow road.
Yeah, we can.
You can around there. That's 3/4 of a mile away, so 3,700 feet to get to the entrance of either Northern Neck or Woods Road. Northern Neck goes down quite a ways. Woods Road at least a mile to the farthest house. Hopefully the fire ponds will help, but there's not a lot of, if they don't, like my pond is not working right now, then what? And so we have a lack of fire suppression capabilities. I think also people along Pretty Marsh Road, along Whitney Farms Road, also have similar concerns. What if there's a fire? As we develop, being able to fight fires is obviously a big issue. My parents came to Mount Pleasant Island before the big fire of '47. So that's my entire life has been in my mind. Every time I see a column of smoke coming up from that side of town, I start thinking about, ooh, what now? And thankfully it hasn't happened, but obviously it's a big concern. So my request is that that the town look into increasing the number of access points to water on that part of town.
As a minimum tonight, I'd like to hear, can you at least start a study with a chief vendor and a professional engineer to look at what are the options? What would it cost? So you have some data to make some decisions with. That's my ask. Any questions?
Mike, how long have you, I mean, that's been identified obviously in the past as a problem area where he's talking about, right? Getting water there.
The Somerville area in general, something
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
So that's gonna be an ongoing problem, and it's probably just gonna get worse if we don't do something about it. So,
Because it's growing in that area, especially with subdivisions. And we really haven't put any new hydrants in 20, 25 years up there. Long Pond's End seemed to be an ideal area, but because of summer traffic and ledge and permitting, we kind of put a hold on investigating that a number of years ago. The other issue is Pond's End is on one side, we have multiple residents and subdivisions on the other side of the road. So if you're gonna go to the expense of putting in the dry hydrant on Pond's End, you probably want to have some type of under road piping, so you wouldn't, wouldn't have to block a road or anything like that. Yeah, it's, that area needs some bolstering in the water supply area. We have, as you mentioned, we have one Beach Hill Road and one on Oak Hill Road and one on the Beach Hill Road. And other than what's on the Woods Road, there's really no other water sources there for the winter time or summer season.
can you how far can you run a line, a dry hydrant, before the length of the pipe makes it impossible?
Well, it depends on the size and diameter of the pipe, less friction loss in the pipe. So I haven't done the math, I'm not sure, but if it's designed right, our pumpers, because obviously you would be pulling out of Long Pond and then going through a pumper and then pushing it under the road, so we can actually give it some gallons, some gallons per minute, push it pretty long, as long as the pipes can withstand and stuff. We clearly go underneath the road and pick up on you. So,
Yeah. Well, I think we need to pursue it.
Yeah, I mean, I fully support that. I just, I told the group that this is a project that's probably way above and beyond my expertise as far as engineering and things like that. And to be honest with you, I've got so much on my plate now, I don't think I can dedicate the time to try to figure out the water spots and design hydrants and things like that. But I think the issue is going to be permitting. DEP is going to be a big role to clear. And apparently, anytime you put a dry hydrant on a state road, without a pull-off, you have to get DOT permitted because you're blocking the road and using the permit. So there's several steps and layers you have to go through.
So there must be an engineer or a company that does these kinds of studies?
Yeah, there's a few engineers in the area, I believe, would undertake this. I know when we did the Otter Creek project, the dredging up over there, we had an engineering firm, Edifying Engineering, did that project for us, did all the permitting, a little bit more involved because we had to truck the slides up the panel and stuff like that. But yeah, there's people around that can design that for you. It's just a matter of, the town's willing to put up the money for the proposal first, and then they'd have to do the study, and then you'd have to do the construction.
So I'm sure the engineering study wouldn't be inexpensive.
No.
So it sounds like the next step would probably be just drafting a warrant article, I guess, to go to the.
For the engineer.
Yeah, probably the next step would be to see if, get proposals from engineers, to
Okay.
see how much it would cost for them to sit down and identify spots,
Okay.
see if it's feasible in those spots. And then they can probably give you a good idea, after that proposal, give you a good idea of how much it's gonna cost for them to do the next step of work, which would actually be the design, permitting.
Okay.
And that's when you get that proposal back, well, it depends upon the first proposal, but that's when you probably have to put a warrant.
So who would we have put forward the request for proposals? Would that be a Derlin thing, or is that a Tony thing, or is that a Mike thing?
Yeah.
John, he's got his hand up.
Yeah, go ahead.
John,
Go ahead.
is this, are we talking about the town funding fire protection for the residences on the town ticket at the town expense?
No, we're talking about funding a design study for dry hydrants.
Throughout the town, John?
No, just in, near Woods Road, Ponds End and so forth.
That
Okay,
sounds like,
I would just caution that future developers of site divisions in town may ask us to do the same.
Yeah.
Mike, in your opinion, in the town, there has to be other locations that, within the town of Mount Desert, that don't have adequate, so to say, dry hydrants, and, I mean, as everything has grown and changed, and like, I'm thinking like Tony, like if, and I'm 100% understand, and I'm just curious if this just opens,
Yeah.
you get into Hull Quarry, there's gotta be issues, and there's gotta be areas in, Seal Harbor that might even now with houses, places, there's gotta be a lot of places on this island that this has gotta be a concern.
Yeah, there is in our town.
Town, yes,
Yeah, deal with
yes,
our town,
sorry.
but yeah, once you get outside the hydrants districts in Seal
Yeah.
Harbor Northeast, water is an issue, and it really, it affects their insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not just, a one-time thing.
Right.
I get multiple.
And we have
phone calls
property on Long Pond, I get it,
Yeah,
so,
I don't know how close to a water source the
Right.
house is, if it's missing in the deep, the insurance goes up, things like that. But you're correct, I mean, Hull Quarry is another area. I think if I'm correct here, what we're kind of zeroing in on is the Ponds End area, is that, where,
I think as a phased approach, that's where the high density of people right there. Source water is close by.
it's easy access,
Where-
if we can get to it in the summer. And it's town land, I think that was where we wouldn't have to worry about right-of-ways or
Yeah.
Yeah,
land purchases or anything like that. But, as I said, there's Tony could probably speak to one argument, there seemed to be, because of the ledge, it seemed to be haunted cats. Very expensive,
Yeah.
start blasting ledge, we don't even know if we can do it.
Right.
Utilize it. So,
permitting and the whole, that's a
Permitting,
whole
yeah.
another piece
Yeah.
of the,
yeah.
I mean, it does return to the same discussion we've had about population density in this town. And the side, Soamesville and the surrounding communities represent a huge share of the residents. And I mean, over the long haul, maybe it is, I think it is something we need to learn more about how to provide better fire protection. We've had that discussion as far as building in Soamesville with the expansion of the fire department. I mean, I'm not suggesting we should go all in to try to put hydrants everywhere, but it's, I understand the concern about, like, if we open this up to one, subdivision, will another subdivision come along and ask for the same treatment? But I mean, I think that as far as the number of residents served in that area, it's worthwhile looking into.
And I think a hydrant at the northern end of Long's Pond serves more than Woods Road, serves more than.
Oh,
that also
absolutely.
Serves a whole bunch of people there.
but in the moment, I would expect, as an emergency department, I know there's a lot of people there, but there would be water, it just would take a little longer, is the idea right now, because of the concerns that you guys brought forward, whether it's winter or summer, it's the time frame.
It's the time frame, yeah, winter would be the worst. We'd have to get an ice auger.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why we don't consider it sustainable water source.
Right.
Any time we can't get at the water in the winter, we don't credit it as sustainable.
makes sense.
Mr. Chairman?
yes, go ahead, Tony.
Mike and I have looked at a dry hydrant on the Pretty Marsh Road end of Long Pond. If we could revisit that. Another option the folks could do is approach the water district to see about providing water out there. It would be expensive. The capital cost would be expensive getting them in the ground, but the water district can recoup those costs over time. But they may want to contact Paul Slack, the manager of the water district, and run that idea by him.
It's a long way.
Oh, no, not an extension, just a new source. and
Oh, yes.
associated piping, yeah.
Maybe I'm not understanding something, but I don't understand why, because it's a development, they're taxpayers and they're citizens of our town, why we wouldn't afford them protection?
I'm willing to comment.
Private road.
Well,
I know, I don't disagree.
Well, as far as fire protection goes, I guess I can answer the fire side.
Yeah,
We typically put dry hydrants anywhere we can.
right,
Least cost, we don't have to worry about right of ways, buying land, if the town owns it, and we get DEP permit, and the water is close enough to the road to where we think we have to be within 20 feet. So, we try to put dry hydrants in, that's why there's one on Oak Hill Road and Beach Hill Road and so on and so forth. So there's, there's limited accesses, there's limited areas where you can put dry hydrants, Pond's End is one. Ripples, we don't have to, because of the brook, it's always open there. So we can draw water out of there in the wintertime, usually there's nobody there in the summer, so that's a good water source there too. But I can't speak for providing fire protection for a whole community. These things happen that, they come in and build a subdivision and grows after years, and the next thing you know, you get a big area of growth in the little area, and then you're on April, because you never planned for potable water, you never planned for sewer, and you never planned for, water for fire suppression too.
Can you explain what's the water source or something on your property that isn't working? What did you refer to?
Fire pond.
Just a pond that's
It
theoretically?
was dug out by the developer with a backhoe, and it fills up with water from springs and rivulets of creeks, etc. It's low in the summertime. It's full right now. There's two of them, and we incur the cost of excavating that, and we'll cover the cost of trying to repair it. Is it adequate? I don't know. It was designed to be whatever a backhoe could do before it hit ledge 20 years ago. It's kind of
They're probably not for 28 residences.
No. I don't know. I mean, you understand these possibilities more than I do. But I'm thinking that at some point, all this infrastructure enthusiasm I'm hearing, some of it might head our way. And it'd be good to be shovel ready to have some projects where you can say, we got some things we can go and do some work here, because we studied this, we got alternatives, it's ready to go. And so I would hopefully get the point of having here some options, here are the places that make no sense for the means that you're agreeing to, and let's get started. It is a big problem. That doesn't mean you can't take the first step.
Well, and I appreciate that comment, and also what Mike said is, well, we put dry hydrants where we can, Chief Bender. And if it's been a while since we've studied where we might put others, it doesn't, just because it was brought to our attention by a Woods Road resident, doesn't mean that it's a response or a reaction to the Woods Road community.
Right.
It's just a wake-up call that we probably ought to be looking at, where we could put in more dry hydrants. And it seems like a reasonable thing to have an engineer study where we might do that, and included in that would be the area that you're talking about, but there might be other areas too.
And I would think we should talk to the water company and say, who
Absolutely.
knows? Again, this is above your expertise, and obviously you
Certainly
put a
ours.
lot of into it, and
No, I definitely think we need more information on this,
Yeah.
and to certainly look into it, otherwise we're gonna be, I live in a village where that's all we have are dry hydrants, and that was not cheap.
Well, and a lot of them are not doing very well. I don't know about this town, but I know in general, the water levels and things have changed. With the climate changing, the amount of water in these ponds, and if they're not maintained and dug out regularly, some of them, if they're man-made, are problematic when you need them.
So how do we move this forward to get more information?
Well, if you want, and I'll put Tony out on the limb here, if he's willing to give me a hand, I'd be willing to, we can get some proposals and come back to the board with some
That'd be
engineering
great.
proposals, see how much it's gonna
Good.
cost at least. Look
What-
into this.
Go ahead, Tony.
I'd like you to define what we're going to be asking for. Would preliminary work be citing additional dry hydrants? And see what that turns up?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
So we'll come back with
Yeah.
some costs.
that'd be great.
That'd
Because
be
right
great.
now, I just feel like we're shooting in the dark. We have no idea.
Sure,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I believe,
Thank you.
we could do it within our respective budgets, fire department and public works. Have
Okay,
someone
great.
look at that. Yep,
Thanks, Tony.
you're welcome.
Okay, discussion of possible permit parking strategy for Northeast Harbor with Chief Willis.
Good evening, everybody.
Morning, good evening.
Gosh, don't tell me it's morning. I guess I'll start with letting you know how I understand the issue from Derlin and a few others, and that's that there are some buildings being built on Main Street that may not have adequate parking for the people that want to live in it. And I think the town's asking me to help you find a way to accommodate them. Would that be accurate?
I think that's what started the as I understand it, Jim, I think that's what started the discussion, but I believe it's going to be a problem that could grow, because we are hoping to have more people, living in apartments in the downtown area, using the facilities, and we're just looking for ways to accommodate them. So it started with this one.
So I guess my editorial in the beginning is maybe the planning board should be making sure that when we're allowing uses that they have the driveways they need, so that this doesn't get too big and we run out of parking. But I guess that's long term and really not for me to address, but I would like to just add that as a comment. I think we have a solution that's fairly straightforward. We learned how to do it with Bar Harbor's system. It's permitted parking. Mount Desert's already joined the IPS system for enforcement. The same IPS system that Bar Harbor uses has a permit module to it that we use extensively in Bar Harbor, and it works very well. And it's also fully integrated with our enforcement software, so the two work together really well. What I would envision doing is probably change the ordinance first. Currently, all of your parking stuff is controlled by ordinance, and we could do an ordinance update that would put something in there that would sort of designate all paid and permit parking would now be regulated by a Town of Mount Desert Selectmen's policy rather than the ordinance. That way, as we need to adapt it and update it, it's a little easier to do without notices in the paper and public hearings, because things pop up you want to be able to fix fairly quick in the summer. Those are fairly quick changes. I can work with town attorneys to get those done and bring them before you. The more importantly, the working part of it is how many, we have to identify how many parking spaces are needed and how many are you willing to designate from public parking lots. I think that the parking lots that are being talked about primarily is the Gray Cow lot and in the area around it. I think that can get problematic because the town uses it to store snow in the winter. There are things we can work through to resolve them, but I guess what I'd like to take from the meeting is this the approach you want to do is to go to a permitting system? And if so, I can work with Tony to figure out where the best places are to do it, but I'd like some ideas to how many spaces you want us to be working with, 4, 6, 8, or 10, and then we could go to work, and Tony and I, and probably John from the harbor, to figure out how we could best make that work. And as far as the functionality of the system, the software is all built. Mount Desert would probably have to pay a fee to join in that IPS permitting system because we haven't done that. Our staff within Bar Harbor PD manages that, and this would not be a big lift to have Chris Wharf just incorporated in there. So finally, once we figure out how many spaces and who gets them, who's eligible for a permit, what's the criteria, and what sort of materials would they have to furnish to us, for a Bar Harbor permit, a resident permit, you have to show us a paid tax bill. For an employee permit, you have to show us a pay stub from a local business, something like that. And from there, the people have to pay for these permits. You can give them out for free, or is there a fee schedule for different kinds of permits? Just those things need to be worked through. And finally, there's renewals. The Bar Harbor system, we finally moved away from renewing. Their residential permits are free. They allow you to park in all the non-metered streets, and if you're a resident, you get a free permit and you can park there. And those are just good forever. This all involves software, websites, and things that are existing, but people really manage their own parking permit. So that's the 100-foot view. Is that the direction you want to go in?
It sounds like a sensible direction to me. I mean, I don't know what an alternative would be other than just saying overnight parking's all right and kind of have designated areas where people can park.
Well, I think if you only want this to work for people that are renting in town, you got to say that, and that really requires a permit, because if you open up overnight parking in town in the summer, you're going to be, they're going to avoid our paid parking to go to Cranberry Island. They're going to park in our parking lot instead of paying someone else to go over the island. So it's a slippery slope. But this program I'm talking about is extremely expandable. I think you'll find future uses for it. I know there's a group, I see Howie's on the meeting here down at the marina, that they think they have some parking problems, and I'm envisioning at some point they're going to recommend you restrict some things that happen down there. And this would be my recommendation, and you would already have it in place. It's just another permit type once we get it up and going.
Sounds perfectly reasonable.
I think it does sound.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what plan we come up with, it will not go smoothly.
Yeah, but we can tweak it.
The pushback, well, no matter what you do, it'll come from somewhere.
And
This sounds good.
And if it doesn't work, we can just stop doing it.
So if oh, sorry, my phone's ringing. Just a sec. See, even the police get spam calls. So what I would like tonight is if you could just give me some direction and maybe a motion to work with the Public Works Director and Harbor Master Office, and some rough idea about how many spaces you want to use. And I can go see other people as needed or maybe even for which purpose. Do you want me to just address the Economic Development Committee's concerns? I'm happy to go visit with them and find out what they're talking about. And then we could bring you back something. And our parking manager, Chris Wolf, is on vacation this week, or I'd have him here at the meeting, but he can come back and show you kind of how that would work. We could run it right through for you.
This is, obviously, we've been talking about an economic development for a while. And I actually, probably 3 or 4 years ago, a resident who lives in sort of the downtown area of Northeast came to me and was a little concerned, specifically with the overnight parking, especially as snowbanks kind of make lots smaller and smaller. It's sort of musical chairs. So I think we were sort of hitting that capacity, but now with this new development, I mean, this is a good problem to have, actually. I think we definitely need to be proactive and have something in place. But the question I had, and maybe Derlin, you know a little about this, I know with the building that's being built for COA, I believe last I knew, their certificate of occupancy was dependent on finding their own solution for parking. And I'd like to see them still fulfill that end of the bargain rather than just taking care of it for them this way, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. And I'd like to see it focused on not, like summertime workers and things like that, but actually people that actually live in the area and need it. And our very informal study, thanks to our Economic Development Committee Chair, Dan McKay, a few years ago, and I think Derlin had some input, was that gray cow lot, even in July and August, never gets more than, what would you say, 3/4 full or so. So there's definitely some spaces, but I would rather start on the small side rather than just sort of open up. But what you mentioned about like, how do you designate who's eligible to get a permit? I mean, that's going to take some thought, because you know.
I have, Matt, we have a template to work from. I guess we might have, I'm sorry to keep bringing up Bar Harbor, but this took years over there to develop, and this policy exists. They have way more permit types than I think you'll need, but I think you could fit right into a couple of their categories by changing a couple of words to do what you want.
We get the Cliff Notes version. That's perfect.
Well, if anybody wants to take a look at that, it's on the Town of Bar Harbor's website. It's called the Paid and Permit Parking Policy. I think it's on the Town Council page. It's been updated several times, but it's got all this eligibility in there, and you could just take a look at that if you'd like.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Jim.
So what is, I mean, Jim, he wants us to.
Tell them what to do
Yeah,
next.
so do we move approval of Chief Willis working with Tony and the harbor master to explore resident employee paid permit parking ideas?
Yes,
I think so.
Okay.
yeah.
Did you get that?
And I think your idea, Jim, of speaking, you could start with McKay, Dan McKay, I think, the head of the Economic Development Committee. He may have a better idea than we do about numbers. Also, or even Mickey, I don't know if she would know, but.
I would think we'd start though with
Yeah.
residents.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Right.
And
agree.
employees,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
rather than,
well, but they're the ones that sort of brought it up, so they may
Right.
have some ideas about numbers.
Right.
And I think if the Economic Development Committee was sort of in the loop a little bit, just informed on this, not necessarily part of the
Right,
coming up with the policy, I think they would certainly be advocates for it within the community.
yes,
So I'm understanding that you want to look at resident and employee permit parking. And I'll learn about the scope of it by talking to the Economic Development Committee. And then Tony and I, and perhaps John, could get to work on how feasible we could see that.
and I'd like a little time to look at that policy you guys already have in Bar Harbor and familiarize myself with some of that to be able to move forward to know what else to ask you for.
Sure.
yeah, that'd be great.
And I'm around all week. If you want to call, feel I'm pretty easy to track down.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
We need to.
Sure.
Well, I think I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Wendy,
Well,
I made a motion.
second. Okay, all in favor? Great, thanks, Jim.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think Howie had a hand up. He may have some comment.
Oh, Howie.
I'm sorry, I was just saying goodbye. But Jim, you're totally right, though. I'm definitely, all ears to try to figure out how you could use this system to help us at the Harbor Marina as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, we'll see you guys later. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Okay, item C, detour in Soamesville, 11/22 to 11/23.
That's like next week.
Yeah, I have an update for you there. That's not as imminent. When I asked Derlin to just let you know that might be happening, that was the initial date. And this really isn't a town function. This is DOT trying to have a detour so some large trees can be removed safely in Soamesville. And I think they're trying to coordinate some work with Versant because they need some poles in the same area to be worked on. So there was a coordination there, and I'm just in the loop on it. And the last email I got was last week, and the detour was November 29th to December 1st. And that would detour folks out, the backside of Soamesville, if you will, Whitney Farm, Indian Point. I still don't even know if that's really going to happen because I think the tree company may not be available then, but if I get further updates, I'll let you know. Sorry for the confusion.
Will I be trapped?
You'll be trapped, and it'll take me an hour to get.
Gail and I will be trapped. She's on the line too.
So we don't need to do anything?
No, this was really just to let you know, DOT was asking when we were working with them to plan it. They just wanted town input because they'll be using town roads. And Tony has communicated directly with them via email. It's coordinated and they know our concerns, so they're really informational, and I'm a little embarrassed to tell you it's not all that accurate right now, so I'll let you know when I know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Review of the general fund and marina capital improvement plan, CIP's proposed funding for fiscal year 22-23.
This was easy to read.
You guys
Am
want?
I the only one that doesn't, I mean, like, I'm like looking at this thinking, oh my goodness,
I know, it's-
are these the same as we have?
Yeah,
All right.
I just thought everybody wanted to.
I made yours big, the ones that were in the.
Oh, I
packet
appreciate
were
that, I
half
just,
by
it's not
11.
I
my,
thought you did very well.
no, I just,
We're all just,
it's not just the size of the print, it's just the layout, it's just,
I just
I
don't.
found it a little confounding.
lots of information.
A lot of information.
I have one question. As far as sort of the carbon reduction efforts, it was unclear to me, will those be worked into like, and I'll use an example, like the work truck that Kyle uses, for example. We're putting CIP away to replace that in, I think, like 3 years. And it seems to me that might be the sort of vehicle that would be the ideal candidate for testing out non-electric or plug-in electric or whatever it may be. So I didn't know whether that change would be made here, or whether there would be another line item somewhere in the budget eventually that would sort of just be, you know, I don't want to say a slush fund, but it would be funding for whatever, wherever it could be used to reduce carbon.
You want carbon reduction.
I think, yeah, Tony's got his hand up.
Tony, go ahead.
You know, what we've done, I know Mike and I have at least, if you look at the bottom of some of these, we put in a amount of money to raise each year, strictly identified to go towards electric vehicles.
Okay.
Mike, if you don't, Mike priced out a fire truck, diesel versus all electric. It was quite an eye opener.
Oh, yeah.
But you'll see in mine, I have some, it's called, and mine's even smaller than yours. Mine's 8.5 by 11. Preparing for electric vehicles and equipment subsidy. That's for the wastewater. I've added $50,000 for all of highway, preparing for electric vehicles and equipment subsidy. I put in $120,000 for this year. That number is somewhat pulled out of the air. We may end up having to supplement reserve money, Matt, with maybe borrow money, depending on, if you're gonna buy $1.5 million fire truck, that's a lot of money to have tied up in a reserve account.
Right. I just want to make sure there's flexibility there, because it's like a crystal ball at this point. I mean, will a practical functioning electric fire truck for this community be available in 5 years or 15 years? The same goes with like police cruisers, just because there's so many electronics on them. I just used like the work truck here that gets as an example, because it seems like it's sort of the simplest sort of
Yeah,
vehicle.
Kim's truck, yeah.
Just
And
to your point, the way that his CIP and Mike's are working right now is very similar to the slush fund that you were talking about.
Slush fund's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
But it's a line item. We're not asking them to see 10 years into the future, because we can't really estimate
Right.
what it's gonna cost to replace these as electric vehicles in 5 or 10 years, because the technology is changing so fast.
Yeah.
And so it's a line item that recognizes that there's going to be additional costs associated with this, but we don't exactly know what they are yet.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And it keeps us from getting too far behind.
Yes.
Mike,
Yeah, I just wanted to add, for example, we're scheduled to replace a fire truck in fall of 2023. There is a couple of all-electric fire trucks available right now, but they said that when we asked how much they are, they said, well, that's easy, just take what you normally pay for fire trucks, double it. So a
What was that all?
$750,000 truck that is estimated is gonna cost us in the fall is well over $1 million. Which to me was too much money to ask for the fire. But knowing that we may go into a hybrid truck, next fall, which is a truck that carries batteries, and when you get to the scene, you pull the parking brake, and it switches over the batteries while it's idling, and it goes back over. That may be more realistic next fall, but we have no idea on this.
Yeah.
So I actually added an extra $200,000 to my CIP, because if we're gonna be buying a hybrid fire truck next year, or the town wants us to, yeah, we have to be prepared to have that money.
Right.
We don't know how much it is.
Right.
No one can give us an exact number. So
$1.5 million.
kind of shooting in the dark.
Jeez.
Look at the bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. In fact, those are horribly made.
Unbelievable.
Oh, Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, Ben and I are guesstimating that Public Works' first electric vehicle will probably be a garbage truck.
Okay.
Matt.
The stinkiest truck on the.
Yeah. I know.
Can it run on biofuel?
Yeah.
No.
All right.
Boy.
All right.
Okay. So what do we need to do?
Just your review with this.
Yeah, this is early in the going here.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. I can't see anything in here. It's
What this?
jumping out.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything jumping out.
No.
No, yeah. Again,
But it
early
is.
in the going, but
I mean, everything is eye-opening, but none of it's eye-popping.
I think the department heads and Jake working together on this have done a good job of starting to plan this vision into the future.
sure.
I think we're off to a good start. And we'll try to, Jake has some ideas, but next year we may be able to make this a little simpler for you.
That would be lovely.
So that's one of our, that's one of our goals. for next
like
year, to
it.
make
I would love that. One of the problems that we do run into is that the current reserve system is set up to be complicated. We have a lot of reserves, and that has partially necessitated a complicated capital improvement plan. Because to assign funding for all of these different assets. There may be some things that we can do about that in the future too, if we want more flexibility with being able to use these assets. And that's something that's on my radar, but I don't have any proposals at the time. And absolutely, my hope is that next year you'll be able to read it without, going cross on it.
So are we required by law to designate money that we put into a cap plan?
So all of this is putting money into reserve accounts.
Yep.
And those have very stringent uses. And if you want to amend the use, you have to go back to the original funding source. So if the reserve was set up at town meeting, we would have to have a town meeting article to broaden the scope of that reserve.
So it's restricted?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we can't just have like a big fund that we break out for our own use?
Well, that's kind of what I would envision, is we would have maybe a public works reserve and a fire department reserve instead of having 20. And, but that would be something that if they were set up at town meeting, we would have to get a town meeting article for them to say, take all of these reserves that are currently housed under public works and combine them into one larger, more flexible public works reserve.
So that's something you may be working on in the future.
It's something that's on my radar and that I would like to see. I think it would allow for more flexibility. I think that, for example, what we just talked about, where I have an obligation by generally accepted accounting principles that I can't recognize an invoice that was incurred in a different period. And so that's putting him in a bind. Whereas if we had a broader use fire department reserve that could bridge the gap of the costs that are incurred in fiscal year 22 to when we have the funding in 23, that would be a perfect example of how these reserve accounts potentially could be hindering us right now because they're so tightly defined. And I don't know, we could talk about maybe there are reserve accounts that would make sense to bridge that gap currently. But that's an example that if there's not a reserve account that bridges that gap, then we just have to wait until we can appropriate additional funds at town meeting or a special town meeting.
Yeah, and this is just one Mike's dilemma here, which is, I understand why there's this urgency.
Yeah.
It's not the first time this has happened, and it's not gonna be the last.
Right.
Or there's something that's voted on town meeting, we wanna act on it. Because of when town meeting falls and when construction makes sense in Maine.
Mhm.
So that's terrific if you find some ways to work with that.
It might even, yeah, maybe not. Never mind.
Tony, go ahead.
In years past, on our wastewater projects, if we borrowed money to pay for the construction, we're able to go to work if approved at town meeting as soon as that loan is secured. We don't have to wait till July 1.
That's true. That's a different type of authorization.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else have anything?
Unfinished business or, oh, CFP, sorry.
Everybody's good?
Yes,
We're
sir.
just waiting for the warrants.
Oh, okay.
Dave's got something
yet.
on other business he wants to discuss.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right, so we're done with the general review, right? Jake, go ahead.
Okay, so I would like to propose a special board of selectmen meeting. The context being that we are currently in the foreclosure process. And 2020 tax liens are set to foreclose December 2nd, 2021. I was waiting on our legal counsel to get an opinion to me about Title 36, Section 943, which we have an article in the previous town meeting where the voters gave the Board of Selectmen the ability to waive the foreclosure process, and that would have to be handed down to the treasurer in order for me to actually initiate that. And I was waiting on our legal counsel to confirm my understanding, and the answer came in too late for me to get it on this agenda.
Okay.
But in order for me to waive the foreclosure process for tax liens that would be burdensome if the town gained ownership of property, such as, we've eaten a trailer that is not worth any money and would cost more money for us to deal with it and dispose of it than the delinquent taxes that they owe. And so, anyway, the special board of selectmen meeting that I'm proposing maybe next week, Monday at the same time, would be to give authorization for me to waive delinquent the foreclosure, the automatic foreclosure process for tax liens under the amount of, say, $300. That it's not worth our time and it's burdensome to the town to acquire that property.
Okay, and the reason for doing it Monday instead of waiting till our next meeting is that you have something.
It's because it has to,
December 2nd.
go through before the foreclosure, and the foreclosures are set for December
Okay,
2nd.
all right.
And the next meeting is
Yep.
December 6th.
Okay, good,
I can do next Monday,
sure.
22nd, 6:30.
Yep,
I can,
And I believe that this can be done via Zoom. I reviewed our remote participation policy.
Yeah.
And I believe this would be categorized as an urgent, what is the word? Urgent issue. And so I believe we could all attend via Zoom.
okay,
If we're gonna be talking about and I don't know like how many properties we're talking about, but any sort of specific information about one of our residents, I mean, I know in the past, we've had maybe executive session with some of that, so,
Yes, we have.
and we've actually had good results with.
I think all he's asking for is just the policies. not
Okay.
the
Right.
Specifics.
In the 2020 tax liens, we would have two accounts that are associated with this, and the total amount of both of those is under $300. And I would advocate that this be a perpetual policy as long as the voters have given the original authority to you all, and we can deal with this once and be done with it.
Okay.
Is there any
And it
way we
doesn't
could do it
mean that they
earlier?
don't owe the money.
Yeah,
They still
the
owe
reason
the money.
6:30 has to be a magic number.
No, I
We could
don't
do
care.
any, I mean, if it's via
I
Zoom.
could do
we could-
earlier,
Sure.
I
I
can't
could
do
do it.
6:30.
I can do it anytime.
Well,
Well, after 3.
I have something that afternoon, but I could probably be available by 5? Would 5 work?
I
for
can
you?
do it if it was at 5. We're not talking about an hour.
No, we're talking about.
Yeah, I could be there at 5.
Good.
4 would be
Okay,
better, but 5
So
would
we're
work.
gonna Zoom at 5?
That would be great.
Zoom at 5. There's a comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I assume you'll send links for somebody.
We will send links and an agenda.
Well,
And
thank
then
Thank you for coming.
Thank
you.
Extra
Thank you.
paperwork. Got it.
Bye.
Monday. Got it.
Yeah, this will be a 5-minute meeting.
That's fine, I don't want to not be there.
Well, I guess maybe it was an abatement I was thinking about.
Yeah, you're thinking of the
Yeah.
date.
And it didn't work out well for all parties, so that was good.
That was it.
Yeah.
5 o'clock. Good. All right. Okay. Any other business? Oh, treasurer's warrants. Approve and sign treasurer's warrants as shown. Town invoices AP 2227. The amount of $178,992.37.
Move approval?
Second.
All in favor? State fees and payroll benefits, AP 2225, AP 2226, and town payroll, PR 2211, in the amount of $170,403.05.
Move signature?
Second?
All in favor?
An abstention.
And acknowledgement of school invoice number 6 and number 10 in the amounts of $141,925.86.
Move acknowledgement?
Second.
All in favor? Great, thank you. Adjournment?
So move.
Second?
All in favor?
Good.
All right.
Okay.
And